All right, we will call this meeting of the Loma Country Township Planning Commission to order at 6:02. First item on the agenda is the approval of the March 12th, 2024 meeting minutes. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the March 12th, 2024 meeting minutes.
Is there a
I second the motion.
Great. It's been properly seconded. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Anyone abstaining? No. Motion carries. All right, next item on the agenda is the 1450 Brookside Road minor subdivision. If you'd like to come forward, introduce yourself, and tell us where you are on the project. I know you were here a few months ago.
Can you hear me all right?
Perfect. Yes, we can.
Not that loud.
Not that loud. Good evening. My name's Andrew Bull from Hanover Engineering. I'm the engineer of record for this project. It's a minor subdivision located at 1450 Brookside Road. And the intent is to have a minor subdivision and ultimately, if we're successful with granting of the minor subdivision, our client has told me that he would like to do a major subdivision with this property. So some of the, we were in receipt of your township engineer's letter of April 2nd. And basically, I don't really have any objections to any of his comments. I think they're all sort of we can reasonably address those comments. And then about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, we received the motions for the minor subdivision and conditions of approval. And basically, as I just stated, we don't have any issues with addressing the comments in the township engineer's letter or the township community developers department letter. The second comment was pertaining to the frontage path and the street trees as required by the township ordinance on the final plan. One of the things that we asked for was a deferral of those two items. And since we're gonna be proceeding after we get this minor subdivision approval, we were gonna move into the major subdivision and we would be constructing that at that time. So, and planting the trees there. However, that was one of the things that is on here. As far as the waivers and deferrals in the motion, we don't have any objections to that, but only thing that we would like to possibly see if the board would entertain is to do a deferral for those street trees and the sidewalks. I should say the walking path. And one of the things we'd like to have some clarification on is what's the material of that walking path required?
So the walking path is asphalt. If you drive up Brookside Road, you can actually see it where it was done for other communities,
Okay.
other subdivisions in the township. We usually reserve sidewalk to specifically where there's going to be curb in a full
Okay.
subdivision. So along Brookside, we have the asphalt. I can speak to the path and the tree. We didn't know the time frame for when the major subdivision would be submitted. It could have been 2 years. It could have been 2 months. It could have been 10 years. And if it was 10 years, we wanted to use this opportunity to make sure that we got those street trees and the walking path in. But if we can expect another submission from the applicant in the coming months as far as a full subdivision, then it makes more sense. We were just unsure
Certainly.
when that would be.
And certainly we did talk, we coordinated or tried to coordinate with you guys pertaining to some infiltration stormwater testing out there. And hopefully maybe we could do that next week. And I talked to my client, and if it would be amenable to the township, we could use his escrow account to do that stormwater testing, if that's agreeable to your engineer and you guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you want to utilize your escrow for that, if you can get us to that in writing, then we can go that route.
Can we send you an email about that?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
So basically, that would be the only thing, all the deferrals that you guys listed down in your conditions of approval. If we could take the condition number 2 up there and make that a deferral.
S-
Um,
Yeah, I mean,
and then
I,
maybe if you want to put a time limit on there, if within 2 years, if you don't build the major subdivision, he's required to.
And your applicant's also aware, I mean, you get credit for preserving the existing trees that are there towards all the other trees that you would need to put in for your subdivision. So it's not just, hey, you need to keep those in perpetuity plus all these extra trees, you get credit for it. So we just want to make sure that all those mature specimens stay in place while you go through the process.
and what is your realistic timeframe? I mean, I know it's construction and those things take a
Well,
while.
we're
but-
looking he's released us to work on the major subdivision plan. So the biggest hurdle is to do the stormwater testing. And then once we have that, we can finalize the design. And we would probably be resubmitting for the July meeting at the latest, I would think.
Okay,
Can I make a recommendation prior to a submission that we do a staff level meeting so that we can point out any major issues right up front?
Yeah.
That'll help you expedite your process
As
as
soon as
opposed
we
to.
have the layout done, I will certainly give you guys a call. We can even send a PDF over to you guys.
Understood. Thank you.
all right. So essentially the question we have here, I'm assuming all members have read the motion that's been drafted. The request is number 2 here about the street trees and walking path. Generally speaking, if we didn't know there was something else coming, we would make this a deferral or enforce that to be installed. This is a little bit unique. Any members have any comments that they'd like to kind of direct this in?
I would like to clarify the time frame for the deferral. I think it's not clear to me what time frame is being requested for the deferral.
Well, we would like to put those improvements in during the major subdivision plans. And once those were approved, we would do that concurrently under the major subdivision plans. I'm planning on submitting those, like I said, probably for the July meeting. And I would think that Adam, he would like to do the infrastructure as soon as possible and sell the lots and build the buildings, the dwellings as soon as possible. So I was saying maybe possibly 2 years if that's, we don't know if we're going to have a recession or something, but if you guys wanted to put a time limit on that deferral, I don't think he would be objectionable to that. Because right now he's got to put it in. The way that we're asking for deferral is it would be better for everybody if during the construction of the major subdivision. However, if he didn't build it, then yeah, you can.
Do you think that time frame is sufficient? When you think about the objective overall is the preservation and protection of the trees that are there, right? So given your future plans, I think a 2-year deferral seems a bit aggressive to me. I'm sure, so I'm curious if you could provide.
Well, I was just
background on
throwing
your
a
suggestion.
number.
Yeah.
I was just thinking out loud that we want to expedite our plan to develop the plans and submit them to the township. So, and then on top of it, once it's approved by the township, my client's gonna want to construct that sooner than later. So we would probably be in that 12 to 24 months to start construction.
Let's go with 24 months, 2 years. I think we've already
Yeah.
talked that once or
Okay,
twice.
that's it.
2 years
That's-
sounds like a good time frame for that.
All-
And if he doesn't build, if he doesn't have approvals for the major subdivision by then you tell him to put those walking paths and the trees.
All right, so 24 months, 2 years, I think is what we're hearing. Everyone is on board with that. So we can make that adjustment, that it would be a 2-year deferral. Are there any other questions? from
One
the
other
board?
thing that I would like to add for everybody's edification, we put the traffic impact fee in here as part of that. It was also mentioned, we do have the rec fee for the single lot, but knowing that there's going to be a major subdivision coming in, it would be based off of the number of lots. Right now, it would just be for one. If you were to build one home here, it'd be $3,800 for one dwelling unit. It'll be $3,800 for each dwelling unit per the major subdivision. And then that goes into our park fund, obviously, to help fund our playgrounds and all that. So
And that's in here, but we're not waiving or deferring that. You're saying that you're
I'm saying at the time, right now, it'll be
Just
one,
one,
it'll
correct.
be one
Yeah.
fee at the time, and then we'll take that off at the time of the major subdivision. So in order to record for your one lot that you're creating now, it'll be one traffic impact fee, one recreation fee. Then when you come in with a major subdivision, that'll be subtracted from all the new lots. That's all.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
great. Who would like to make the motion?
So I move that the 1400 Brookside Road minor subdivision plan be approved contingent upon the applicant's agreement to all the conditions outlined in the letter, with the exception of number 2, deferral for 2 years or 24 months. And the plan is contingent upon understanding that the fee is for one lot.
All right. Anyone want to second that?
Second that.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Abstaining. All right, that motion passes with that.
Great, thank you very much.
One
Thank
change.
you.
And also, I should have mentioned this for public notices during the agenda here. There is one item that's been removed from the agenda. That is the Iron Run Estates preliminary plan. So if you were here for that, that has been removed from the agenda. for today's meeting.
They have asked to be tabled following review letters from the township. So if you're here to ask questions about that or cover that particular item, they will not be in front of the planning commission. This meeting, we don't know the next meeting that they will be in front.
Great. All right, next item on the agenda is the Wild Cherry Estates sketch plan. So you have some updates for us.
Yes.
Great.
I'm pulling up the plan so everybody can see it. Just so everybody is aware, we did hear from the applicants again. They did submit an updated ordinance compliant plan. As we discussed in the past, there were stormwater basins and a portion of the cul-de-sac and road that were within the 500-year floodplain. As everyone knows, we had to modify that ordinance given some of the catastrophic damage we've had to infrastructure over the past several hurricanes and whatnot, including basins getting sinkholes and whatnot. So the applicants have since modified their plan to be ordinance compliant. There is no proposed stormwater or roadways within the 100 or the 500-year floodplain. And this is the sketch that meets our current ordinance requirements.
All right, and if you'll just introduce yourselves for the record as well.
My name is Zach Arnold. I'm here with 7 Development Group, developer for this.
I'm Brian Boyer, the Boyer Engineering Project.
All right, and if you want to tell us a little bit about
Yeah.
those specific changes.
Yeah, so basically we were here last month. We discussed the new ordinance, about the 500-year, that was just put in. It was like a little bit of a month overlap of when we did the original sketch plan. So really what we did is we kind of moved everything up, changed the direction of the roadway, tightened up the cul-de-sac. And now there is no longer anything in the 500-year. It is still going to be a private road. HOA will own the land essentially, all that we kind of previously discussed.
And as you noted, our major concern was the 500-year
Yes.
floodplain. What was the total count change in the number of units?
4 units. We lost 4
Lost.
units. So there's currently 13 units on this plan.
And your time frame last time was, all right, we're going to start moving. This has been in the works for a while. Your time
Yes.
frame last time was, all right, we're going to start moving on this and trying to move quickly.
Correct.
That's still the case?
Yes, that is still the case. We're still trying to, move as quickly as we can with this one. I guess one of the things that we would want to discuss with obviously this code compliant plan is that emergency access. I know we discussed connecting to the existing trail system as well. We are putting in a walking path along the front of the property along Wild Cherry Lane. It is our intention to connect the trail heads that are currently there. And then I know there was some discussion about possibly trying to connect back to like the baseball or in softball field that's behind the property as well. And it's thought that we could probably kind of tie that emergency access as well as that walking pathway together.
Can you clarify the walking trail? Is that along the creek? Going back to the March 4th comments, I think the question was, or the recommendation was to have the path along the creek also be included?
Ozias, we have an existing trail
Yes.
that goes along the creek. In fact, some folks are using that right now, from what I've seen also for fishing
that included?
access. The recommendation was to make sure that they had a trail that got them into that as
Is
well.
that included to that, is my
Yes.
question?
Yes, yeah, the
That's the
trail
question.
comes up, there's like a little bit of, I think, a gap that we would probably need an easement from the township to be able to connect essentially completely. But yes, our intention is to lead down to that trail, which is on the screen now.
Yeah, so the trail's right here. It runs along the creek. And goes quite all the way up. As everyone may or may not know, our goal is to get connectivity creek trail similar to down by the fish hatchery all along the creek here. And then with the development occurring in this particular lot, they would have a connectivity point that would allow them to get to it.
Yes, thank you for clarifying, because that wasn't clear. in the
Yeah,
last
so that
sentence.
that road frontage would basically kind of get you down. I don't know if it's per se a parking lot down there, but it kind of does start to come
Right.
up there where you can cross over the road. Right in this area here, we would connect to that in the front, and that would make it all connected. And then we could also run one kind of back
For the
through
emergency
property
access.
for the emergency access to really kind of connect it all, be able to get you back to the baseball field.
Thank you.
In other situations, have we done that where we have a emergency access that is also kind of doubling as a trail?
I actually think we may, yeah.
Fairly common.
Okay. Making sure. I mean, it seemed like a good use. It's regularly used by the better purpose, the trail, and
That,
hopefully never used as the emergency.
Yeah. That section we would make a little bit wider, obviously to support emergency vehicles as well as, have a little bit heavier duty of, spec for it.
So I asked a good question. Maury probably has the answer of where we've used it. Is that right, Maury?
Well, okay, my first question is about the advisability of using the access on Wild Cherry for emergency access because that bridge floods out sometimes.
I think the emergency access is off of Spring Ridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would
comes
connect to
from
Spring
up
Ridge
above.
right here,
Yeah,
Mark.
the entrance is coming straight across from the valley.
Okay, well, he was talking about having a path go down to the path along the creek and saying,
More or less a sidewalk along the road.
huh?
It's just
Like a
kind-
sidewalk along the road, along Wild Cherry, it's a sidewalk. That is a walking path. That's,
Not the
Not
path that
emergency
runs
access.
along the road, the creek?
we're gonna, the picture of the path he had up there, we're tying into that. So our property is between two sections of that we're gonna connect it.
It would just be for pedestrian purposes, along front there. And then the emergency access, basically our property sits to one side of the creek.
Right.
Kind of up from it, and then the emergency access will kind of go back towards the ball field.
Okay.
Spring. But the path along Wild Cherry would just be for walking, connecting, interconnecting all the
Yeah.
trails that are already established.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have additional comments from the public? Step right up. If you can introduce yourself as well.
Hi, my name is Leilani Souders. I live at 4939 Wild Cherry Lane in the Stone Farmhouse. So when the development was built above us, Wild Cherry Knoll, there was not appropriate water review. and hence all the additional flooding that has occurred. So our property, luckily, the lower driveway never floods. However, it wraps around our house. So I would like to know what kind of evaluation has been done to ensure another 11 homes right above the creek doesn't affect our home that has been there since 1810.
So this is a sketch plan. So they're looking at the logistics of whether or not it could even fit. They have to go through a full engineering process at the next point to determine if they will be able to hold back the water that the road and these 11 homes create. That would be done utilizing probably basins, and other methodology. Another thing that's required by the state right now is water quality. And they do have, space available to them to do that either through naturalization with additional plantings or spray irrigation or whatnot. So they will be doing full engineering review on how to hold that back. Now, I should note though, they're going to do it for their project on what they are building. That's kind of what they are responsible for. If you have an additional concern about stormwater, I would encourage you to reach out to me
Okay.
and we can actually look into it because we've been doing that for a number of individuals recently. We go out during every storm to check to see what the conditions are at the creeks and at the bridges and whatnot. So if you've noticed something that's changed over the past several years, I would encourage you to reach out to us and we can inspect it during the next storm event for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yes, because we have a well, and utilize well water, and it has changed dramatically in 26 years since we've lived there. Okay.
Yeah, and early, just for your
Yes.
knowledge too, is in the previous meeting, that was our number one concern. That's why, for one, there's 4 less units there because, we have all observed just how much water goes through there and how that has changed. If you've been there 26 years, you know exactly how that has changed. So it is, in the last discussion here last month, that was the top concern of
Okay.
flooding.
Flooding,
So, yeah.
flooding, yes.
Yeah.
So will there be another meeting where the additional valuation will be reviewed and comments?
Yeah,
of-
because this is just a sketch
Okay.
plan, so they're looking to get comments that they know, all right, when do we move forward to the next step to be a little bit more official?
Okay, great. Thank you.
There's two more basically plan reviews. We also have to go to board of supervisors. So it's still, there's many reviews yet.
Okay.
Conservation District will also review the stormwater.
Yeah.
Okay. great. Thank you. I think this is more work being done now compared to 26 years ago when
Definitely.
Was that
Millburg
development-
Pace was there.
Was that development built 26 years ago or
It was
prior to
not, no.
2006?
Right, correct. We moved in 98. It was not, we came to the township when,
So the
Mr. Riley and,
development was prior to 2006?
I don't remember when that development was
It's
put in.
somewhere.
But
Do you
right
remember?
around then is when all the storm drainage regulations changed and got a little bit
More
stiffer,
strict,
a
right,
little more strict. So they may not have had those restrictions back.
right. Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. Are there any other comments from the public? Any comments from up here on the board? Things that again, this is a sketch plan, things that we like, dislike.
No, I noticed the change. I can see you moved it over and I can see you lost a couple lots, but it does look better, yeah.
From an engineering standpoint, any comments?
What we were looking.
I think that's all that you're looking for today, correct? It's just that bit of feedback.
I mean, I would ask that, maybe make a recommendation that we can, make that connection with emergency access to and the trail system to that park in the rear.
Well, I think some of that's gonna have to come out in engineering. Obviously, you have grades and things like that are
Yeah.
we're gonna have to look at fairly closely. So maybe
mean, I would-
better with the land development application.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone objected to the idea. That's why I asked if it
Yeah.
had been
Yeah.
done before.
Yeah.
And if it has, that usually makes it a little easier for us to
Yeah.
recommend it in the future. Any other things that we need to review on this?
No, I would
No.
say, this was the major issue. We would just encourage them, like we mentioned to the other folks prior to submitting for a formal planning commission application. We should probably set up and have a meeting, make sure that there aren't any major issues before you take the time to make a full submission and send it in for review. So.
Yep.
Great, yeah, we appreciate the working within
Yes.
those changed
Yep.
standards. So
Yep.
As you heard, it's important.
Yep,
And
yep.
you heard it here last time too, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then we have the Hamilton Square project, conditional use. Thank you.
So if it pleases the planning commission, I think one thing that might be helpful since we have so many new members on is to give a little bit of history here.
Yes.
Yep.
This site was where the original application came in at the historic or semi-historic mine keeper's house here many years ago, where they were going to do the drive-through Arby's, which actually has since been demolished. But this is the site that you see here. It's abutted at the rear by Hamilton Crossings, and then on both sides by access points to Hamilton Crossings. The site was originally supposed to be, again, the drive-through Arby's with a strip. And then the applicant has since purchased the other lots with the other residences that go right up to the North Crocs entrance to this site. Their plan now proposes for two structures, and it would be a similar retail service concept that we've seen before. And it would fall under our current zoning ordinance, which is the West Coastville District. So we've been working very closely with the applicants on our design guidelines, our streetscape design guideline standards, building placement on Hamilton Boulevard. We've stressed the importance of the site as far as everything in the township with its location, what we're trying to achieve on Hamilton Boulevard. We have the Hamilton Boulevard corridor plan, our comp plan, all of our zoning. So with that, that's the history. We've been working with them to get to that point, and now they just wanted to update the board in terms of what the proposal is. It is a conditional use. We have noted that there's going to be likely some zoning relief that's required, like the last one was, but that they're at a point now where we wanted to get feedback from the planning commission to begin the process to move us forward towards a hearing.
All right, so if you'll
Good evening.
all introduce yourself, just
Yes,
for the
Bill
record.
Pipparotta, I'm counsel for the applicant in the matter. This is Mr. Gabriel Joseph. He is the applicant.
Yeah, I'm Bud Newton from Newton Engineering and
James Ballard. All right, tell us what
yeah,
you got.
the last time that we were here in front of you was August of last year, when we presented a plan for this property. When after Mr. Gabriel, Mr. Joseph took over the property. And what we wanted to do tonight, as Nathan mentioned, was give you an update on where we are, the meetings that we had with the township, compare this current plan, because we know that I think there's 4 new members of the planning commission since we were here last August. So we felt it would be a good time to talk about this, get you up to date on what's been going on, discussions that we've had with the township, and make sure that when we come back for the conditional use and with the land development plans, that we're all on board with what direction this is going. So what I handed out is the PowerPoint. Nathan's going to be showing on the screen too, in case somebody is looking by Zoom, or the rest of the board can see, the rest of the people here can see what's going on. The property itself, as Nathan mentioned, is on Hamilton Boulevard. It's between 5329 and 5370. We had a previous plan, as Nathan mentioned, that included 3 of the properties. That's now includes 5 properties. And there's currently 7 driveways that came out on the Hamilton Boulevard. This consolidates it all to one property. But the property is surrounded on 3 sides by Hamilton Crossing. So the only access to the property is by Hamilton Boulevard. There's no option for us to be able to get out onto Crocs Road, or no option for us to get on into the Hamilton Crossings project, either onto the driveway or the shopping center, either by vehicles or by pedestrians. We did have a slide in there that showed what the street view had looked like previously. This had shown the old, Nathan mentioned about the old mine that was the Fretz office building. Previously, that was the mine keeper's house, and then you had the old residential properties. There was a holistic medicine use in that second building and the residents in the left side of that building. Then you had the other residential properties that were included in there previously. Next slide shows what we're proposing now, which consists of two buildings of 10,000 square feet. We did have a previous opinion from Carl Best that since we had zoning approval before the RB site, that we were able to do a coordinated commercial project of less than 2 acres. We had zoning relief previously, but we are, Vince now has asked us to go get a zoning relief because we have less than 2 acres and coordinated commercial project requires 2 acres. And that he also, because we will probably have some restaurant uses in this strip, these strip buildings, that we are gonna have to get conditional use for that. We did have, the next slide shows, we are proposing, pedestrian connections to existing walkways that were put in with Hamilton Crossings at the right in, right out driveway. We also have connections to the intersection of North Crocs Road with Hamilton Boulevard with the Headman intersection crossings, pedestrian crossings there. And also that gives us connection over to the Township Trail that goes down through the power lines. What we do with the highway occupancy permit, one of the benefits that we had when we were doing this project initially, when we got the highway occupancy permit for the project, we were doing the Dr. Tursik's medical office opposite side. We were doing the Taco Bell. We had meetings, township, us, PennDOT, had all met, talked about this section of Hamilton Boulevard and the access to this section. And that was how we came up with, they wanted this, PennDOT wanted to try to get rid of all these driveways on the north side, and they wanted to consolidate the driveways on the south side. And they wanted to try to get an alternate way for people from Meadowwick to be able to get out the traffic light. So, you know, in conjunction with the 3 properties and their highway occupancy permits, they came up with this driveway for this property. And as part of the original Arby's approval, the township required that there be an access easement, that if these other 2 properties became part or became redeveloped, that they would have to utilize this driveway also. So the permit for PennDOT included this traffic. We do have a current active low volume driveway or permit from PennDOT for 1,130 vehicles. And as we show later in the trip generation, this project is proposing 652 trips per day. So permit, we think, is still valid. We're in the process of getting PennDOT to come back and say, yes, this will be a permit that's in place, will be valid for this development. But, you know, PennDOT, it will require us to have the access opposite of the access to Meadowwick. That was they were very clear on that, went to get a permit previously. Now, this is a copy. The next slide is a copy of the PennDOT permit that we have for the property. The next slide, we start talking about the buildings that we have. You know, we have looked at architectural enhancements to the buildings. They have varied roof lines. One of the things that we did from the old plan, and we'll get into this when we show the comparison, is we have moved the buildings up closer to Hamilton Boulevard than the plan that we had in front of you last August. And we added we moved the outdoor patio areas side of the buildings so that more frontage of Hamilton Boulevard is building instead of being parking. We have the screening wall, and we have this all designed with the enhanced landscaping, that we're going to continue the streetscape that we have on Crocs Road. We're going to continue Hamilton Boulevard here. We're going to have those pedestrian scale lights that we have along Hamilton, North Crocs Road, down along the frontage here. We'll have some of the same amenities out front. We'll have the street trees. We'll have pathway included along the frontage here. So you'll have a continuation of the landscaping that's in the front. Go down along North Crocs Road, will continue down along the frontage of this property. See a little bit more of that in, the next, plan. Skip over comparison plan. This plan shows those, can you go back one, Nathan?
Sorry.
That shows the old plan. Plan on the left there is what we had in front of you last August. We had the patios in front of the building. We had a lot more area where the parking was up closer to Hamilton Boulevard because of the meetings that we had with staff over the past several months. Last August and now, you can see that we moved the buildings closer to the roadway. We added patios up along Hamilton Boulevard. We moved some of the parking back. We actually turned the right building to be along, more parallel to Hamilton Boulevard. We made the left building a little bit wider, a little bit deeper to take up more of the square footage. We couldn't move both buildings closer to Hamilton Boulevard, as we'll discuss a little bit later when we talk about the fire truck movement through the site, but we were able to move one building up closer to the roadway and make it narrow and be able to have buildings front closer to Hamilton. Next sheet does show renderings of the building. Now, keep in mind that we don't have the street trees and some of the other amenities here, so you can see the buildings better. You'll have street trees, you'll have the street lights, and you'll have some of the other streetscape features out there that you don't see here in the renderings, but we wanted you to be able to see what the buildings look like. You'll see that they do have the enhanced architectural features. You'll have some stone, you'll have varied roof lines, you'll have awnings on the buildings. This won't look like your normal strip set. The next elevation view shows a little bit more of the buildings. They have a lot of glass in front. This shows a little bit of materials that we require showed on the side. Next slide shows some of the amenities that we're proposing. The patios will have, the outdoor furniture. We have some trellises along Hamilton Boulevard that you'll be able to walk into the site. We're going to add the stamped asphalt pavers across the driveway. And internally, we'll be using some of those also. Next slide will show some of the landscaping. We're going to have the frontage will look very similar to what we have on the opposite side of the roadway with Taco Bell. We have the slide in there of what the Taco Bell looks like. As we said, we're going to try to carry the same type of wall feature that we had on North Crocs Road and on the other corners, the intersection. We're going to try to make this a continuation of some of the things that we did with Hamilton Crossings so that it all blends together. And one of the reasons that we couldn't move the two buildings up closer to the roadway is being able to get the fire truck through the site, be able, I think we discussed this quite a bit last, when we were here in August, that, we had to keep the one building, at least keep the one building perpendicular to the roadway because we need to get the fire truck to the site. Tried to put the two buildings there and get 10,000 square foot building. We couldn't put the buildings all parallel to Hamilton Boulevard. We wouldn't have had depth to get the fire truck through. And we want to make sure that the development was safe. The next slide just shows trip generation site to show that we had 652 vehicles, which is less than what the permit that we currently have at the site. And then, our request will be that we'll be back to you with conditional use. We do want to be able to then proceed with land development plans. We are going to also request to the zoning hearing board to go for the variance for the 2 acres. We want to be able to use the provision in the zoning ordinance for the joint use of parking. Right now, your ordinance requires that we use the IT parking generation for determining how much parking that we require from the site. There's a issue that I, as a traffic engineer, have with that, in that the use for restaurants without drive-throughs are meant for more of a freestanding restaurant, not for a restaurant that's part of a strip center. And it doesn't really take into effect the multiple use trip that you get. You know, the highest use of a restaurant is at lunchtime, but people who come in at lunchtime normally would use some of the other services at the strip center at the same time. So you do get a mixed use trips, the parking. So we're going to be asking for a higher usage, that a consideration of joint use of some of the parking spaces, so that we get a higher percentage of the space being able to be used as restaurants. So that's pretty much what we're going to be looking for in the site. We'd like to get any feedback that you would have on the plan. And we would also, you know, last time that we were here, James gave an explanation of, you know, the site, why we needed to have the site from a commercial standpoint of what's out there right now, what's the market, you know, can handle, you know, why do we have to have a certain amount of space, and why do we have to have a certain layout? What are people renting these days? But maybe, could you address that?
Well, I mean, first of all, the plan's been a little bit of a moving target, so it's been hard to pin down tenants. But, you know, we're getting quite a bit of interest from restaurant users, working on a couple of different things, a med spa, salons, you know, those kind of amenity type uses. What else do you want me to go over?
Just a little bit that, you know, that we have to be careful that we do have space that is conducive to be able to rent.
Well, of course, you know, again, we're trying, the tough part of my job is trying to figure out exactly what uses I can even put in the project. I mean, that's really been the hard part up until now, because of the turning the buildings, and I believe I read something about residential upstairs and things like that.
Might want to talk about bank and potential bank.
Right, well, right, well, that they have, vanished, you know, that was, in my opinion, a very good use for the property. It went against the zoning ordinance regarding the drive-through. But, you know, the bank would have reduced trips significantly. So, you know, that went away, however, at this point.
The bank use was actually one that was limited to ATM machines, not even the typical drive-throughs to service it. But the sense we got back from staff was that that was not something that they would support at this location. That probably would have eliminated one of these two buildings and reduced, you know, the impact on the property significantly. But other than that, you know, the other two uses, as Jim expressed, that are expressing an interest in it are those kinds of limited uses for this type of facility. Many restaurants
Yes,
seem to be the thing today in this community too.
obviously its location plays huge into that. They already have customers that were coming for something else, and when they're suddenly hungry, they come to the restaurant.
And if I just could add, and Nate, I think, you know, when he introduced the project, stated it accurately, and that is that Mr. Joseph really has tried to cooperate as much as possible with the staff comments. I mean, this is a difficult, you know, site, but we are eliminating 7 driveways. We're consolidating 5 lots. We think ultimately at the end of the day, it's a good project. It's going to have less impact on the community. But we just did want you to know that a lot of the changes were a result of comments that were made by the staff here in the township. And Gabriel has been very receptive to that. You know, over the last 9 months to a year, we've you know, this morphed into this plan.
Yeah, I mean, it seems by the tie-ins, trying to make it look like the site across the street, making it also kind of look like the site that it's surrounded by, just filling in with the general philosophy that Lower McConchy has had over the years. I mean, all those things, it's obvious that you've taken time to make those part of
Benefit
it.
Having Bud. who
Exactly, yes.
participated in many.
You've been asked to do the same thing for many times, so
Yeah.
yes, it was clear that those were
Yes, yes.
implemented as well. And just from my understanding, the trip generation was reduced by how much from the permit that you had originally got?
We originally had approval with the Arby's restaurant.
Almost 50%, I think.
You know,
Is-
we had approval for 1,130 trips a day down to
600 something?
652
Yeah.
now trips projected. Wait, closing. For an eye.
Great. And then I think the reorientation of that second building really changes it as well. As you heard at the last meeting, and just generally you've heard us at other meetings say very similar things, so.
They'll realize Nathan's letter, the letter from Wyatt last year. was
Yeah.
Based on the first.
Correct.
We want to make sure folks realize. that
Yep.
We've gone through and made all these changes and all of that, and also numerous meetings that we've had with Nathan and staff. We think that Mr. Joseph really gone out of his way to try to come up with a plan that both satisfy what the township's needs are, and what Mr. Valiant needed to be able to have something renovate.
I do have a question. If you can pull up the slide that shows the July versus April comparisons. And it could just be my misunderstanding of so in the July diagram, you had the path that was across the parking lot where people could walk across. In the current rendering, I'm thinking of someone that's in a wheelchair and they're trying to get from the left side to the right side. Without the path, if I was in a wheelchair and I'm trying to get from the left building to the building on the right, is the only way that I would do that is the concrete sidewalk to be able to get access from one side to the other? Or is there another way that you're thinking about
I think that's.
connected?
Crosswalk. At the end of the driveway. Glad in the crosswalk.
Can you show me what you're thinking? Just because I'm thinking again, safety for someone in a wheelchair or who isn't
At the
physically.
end of the island driveway, we'll put a walkway across it further. We have handicap spaces in there where Nathan has, we'll add a crosswalk in that area. That's ADA accessible.
That'd be great. That would be great.
And that is glad that.
Usually when I have an accident, I'm on crutches, then I get a whole new view of the world to see how people who aren't able to get around, and I have senior parents. And so, thank you for those.
I'm very aware of that. Last October. More aware of that than I've ever.
One of the other questions I was wondering if you can talk us through, given the desire or preference for street aesthetic. And so I love the design of bringing the building and having the patios. But can you talk a little bit more about the enhancements to kind of the look and feel of the design? I know you're still thinking it through and you talked about kind of the seamless nature of Taco Bell.
I think in the discussions that we had with the township, we did have across, brought in some of that design along with Cross Road. Industrial scale lights, walkway there, some of the, in the median there, landscaping, irrigated landscaping out there, median and stuff, that really set that project off, made that a lot different than the township had before. So the intent here is that we're gonna try to carry that look around the corner, carry that from the building. You're not, like I said, you're not seeing it here in the renderings. We took that off so you can see the buildings, but you will see trees. And we may add a couple benches out front here, a couple amenities out along the roadway that will make this more look like it's a continuation of what you have on North Cross Road.
Yeah, one of my concerns the last time you were here was the back of the larger building is going to be facing Crocs Road. So I'd be curious to know what the appearance of the back of that building is going to look like.
You're not gonna see a lot of that because of landscape.
Okay, yeah.
Fortunately, better to see some of that. It's fairly heavy. You can see there's
Mhm.
all the trees there right now that put in down the process.
Okay. With that, one of the things I was thinking is with where the placement of the dumpster is, it's quite a big distance from, I guess, that front corner on the larger is intended to be a restaurant. How are they gonna be getting their trash out all the way to that back corner? Are there gonna be dumpsters in the back also?
And most of these facilities, it's fairly close. They're gonna have totes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, small site. Limitations that we have.
Yeah, I'm thinking practically, I'm a business owner. I can't picture a restaurant having people bringing their trash out the front door to go across the parking lot to that side corner and to take it out to the trash. So I would just think about that a little bit.
That was also
We've
my
given
concern.
that a lot of thought.
Yeah,
So there is limitations.
it is, because then you got to think about the trash trucks being able to access the dumpster. So I do understand. But I just think as far as practicality operationally, as a business owner, I'd be looking at that going, I don't know if I want my staff bringing out the, the grease junk food out out the front door. Yeah.
We are gonna have trash.
Yeah. Would there be any access out the back doors, or is there, like, where are the emergency exits to the
There's
buildings gonna be?
Emergency access. Real majority. The day-to-day operations.
Okay,
That was also my concern.
It's gonna be very similar to that. Small projects. Space.
yeah,
Access like
or,
I echo Martine's comment. I appreciate what you tried to do along with the rotated building by having that faux front. But I've seen strip malls like this with that aesthetic, and it's pretty obvious because you're gonna have all that black film over the glass, I assume. So you're not gonna be able to see back of house, kitchens, that sort of thing. Is that correct?
it really depends on what.
Is there the possibility that depending on the user, we could actually get windows?
Oh, yeah.
That would be
I feel like every retail is gonna need a back of house though. So it's either that side or the other. I just don't see having like a clear view through.
If you have a fairly large user in there, would be like a large restaurant, something that probably have the kitchen on the far end of that, dining room, that access. That windows, something. Side.
Yeah, I understand that. I think the idea is good, but I think once you lock down your tenants and it becomes a reality, then that's where it can go sideways, I think, with that aesthetic. Otherwise, I think you're abiding by the design guidelines pretty well. It is very symmetrical, and all the roof lines are the same height, pretty much. I mean, you have two roof lines, which I don't know if that complies with design guidelines or not, but I'd like to see a little more variation. I think the design guidelines are trying to emulate, Main Street USA almost. But I appreciate the stone, and I assume that's some sort of hardy board or sort of fiber cement siding. I'm just not convinced about the connection between the faux facades and Hamilton right now. I think I expressed my concern last time when you were here in August. I know it's a tricky site. I know there's a certain quota you have to get in there for tenants, but I'm just not convinced that the buildings are oriented the best way for the community. It might be oriented the best way for developer, but I mean, this property it's one of the gateways to the township. It's, you know, one of the prized possessions. So this has to be right. I'm just not convinced with the orientation right now.
No, I'm just taking the context.
There is extreme limitation. Last August. Month, that's. Satisfied with post. Satisfying all the requirements.
I think we've definitely heard some very good, you have additional comments?
Have you done the HOP already?
The HOP exists.
It exists. Are you right in, right out?
And we're in the process of verifying that.
Okay, can I step in on a couple of things? I want to make a point that Bud had I'm gonna basically repeat some of the things that Bud had mentioned. This original subdivision, the original approval for this property was for a 3-lot consolidation. They have subsequently come in and added 2 more lots to that consolidation. I know Bud said they were required to provide access for the residential units, the 2 adjacent residential units. That being said, the reason they have to go back to zoning is because this is a new application, because this is now a 5-lot consolidation. So this is a new application. So they have to go back to zoning. They still need the zoning approval for the minimum lot area, correct?
Well, if I could just comment on that. There's a bit of a disagreement as to whether we do or we don't, but we're going to do it. We have in our records previous determination by the zoning officer of this township indicating that we did not need to do it. However, staff has indicated that they would desire for us to do that, so we are going to go back through zoning. So I want to make sure that you understand what our position is as well, because we do have a opinion from the previous zoning officer that the zoning variance was not necessary for this particular project.
For the 3-lot consolidation.
Absolutely.
There you go.
For the 5 lot, excuse me, for this project.
For the 5-lot.
Yes.
Okay. And then the other piece is Bud keeps saying that the HOP was previously approved. Again, that was for the 3-lot consolidation, requiring that the 2 residential lots tie. Our office wants to see that PennDOT has a chance to see the new plan with 5 lots, actually sees and reviews and approves the new plan. I understand the traffic counts. We are asking for updated traffic counts because the other approval was back in 2019. Typically, PennDOT only holds traffic counts for 3 years. Again, this is a new submission because of the 5 lots. So they think you keep saying that you have an HOP, and I just want to kind of make it clear that isn't really the way we're seeing it.
No, we understand that we have to go back through that process. And I think Bud's indicating we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Our
so we should
position
go
is
back through
we
the
think it's going
process.
to be
I'm okay.
favorable because we're number one, eliminating
Yeah.
additional driveways, and number 2, we're reducing the traffic counts by 50%. So I agree that matter has to be taken care of, and we're prepared to do.
Okay.
Again, CKS and Brian are not involved in this, but PennDOT as part of this, when we were negotiating driveways for this section of road, wanted to have all of the driveways. They tried to get the 2 other additional properties included in this at the time that it was done. They said at the time that those properties that were developed that they had. We had to provide the crossings, the RVs that had to get crossings, then out of this project, then so that's what we.
Yeah, no, I mean, all of it makes sense. It sounds like that's your argument for it. It sounds logical to me. It's just not there
Yeah,
yet.
I mean, we still have zoning, we still have conditional use. We
Yeah.
still have land development. We have a long way to go in this process.
Right.
For this site with
Yeah.
the additional requirements of outside agencies.
And right now you want to get the most constructive feedback you're getting. So, yeah. Yes, yes.
Joe, I talked to you on the phone. Nice
Yes.
to meet you in person. We talked before about, you're gonna go to do zoning first, right?
Yes,
Before
yes,
we
we
come
are.
back to this.
We
and-
just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure there wasn't going to be any additional relief that's going to be required, and that's why we were here to receive
Exactly.
the comments
Got
of the planning commission. But yes, that will be the next thing on our agenda, would be to go to zone.
Yeah, just so you guys know, they're gonna go to zoning here
Before we
first,
come
and
back
then
to
you'll
the
see this
commission.
again. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense.
Like, smooth as possible.
Great. Are there any other comments?
I
from the-
did have one more
Okay,
question.
yeah.
Can you explain to us the traffic flow? Is it gonna be right turn only coming out? How is the in and out going
No,
to look?
The permit as exists right now, hope that PennDOT allows it.
Okay. Gonna be tight. Cause you got the traffic light here, and then
Always-
you have the
always
exit
backed
out
up
of the
there.
DSW there, and then you have the,
Yeah.
so I mean, if you have someone, if it's backed up, cause that light gets backed up. And if you're gonna go turn left into here,
Yes. Well,
and it's backed up, you could just
I
back enough
think
traffic all over.
one of the reasons that you do have to reapply for the permit is so that they
Okay.
can reanalyze those things, especially, I mean, it might be a different traffic count on the actual road now.
Talk, access, nice, put a right in, go to the driveway and have it cross.
And I do remember us
Or
speaking
in
about
the
that,
box.
yeah,
That's just not an option.
I know, I know,
Yeah.
but certainly something to look at for sure when you're,
And-
And one of the things that we missed.
Yes, and just one of the questions to ask, it goes along with that, obviously, to connecting any of the roadways has been very difficult. Pathways have been difficult. Have we talked to Hamilton about these particular connections?
Be able to connect the pathways that we have.
Right, no new pathways, but it could connect to what exists.
What's there, yes.
I don't have any additional comments from the public. I mean, you're not looking for anything else from us other than the feedback that you heard. Anything you have questions on? I
Very
think we're
helpful.
good.
Thank you.
Good.
I think we're good to go.
Thank you.
All right.
Great,
you
thanks.
for your time.
Thank you guys, we'll see you again.
All right, and our last item on the agenda is the Community Development Department report.
Right, so at one of our most recent meetings, there was a request to provide some detailed updates on projects that have left Planning Commission and moved on to the board, or items that we're working on right now. So I do have a bit of an update for everybody.
Great.
Also that both Brian and Mark might be able to assist in filling in. One of the first things that I think is important to note is if you haven't been down over that way recently, the Sauerkraut Lane Extension Project continues and has been moving full speed. As you may or may not know, we have a proposed new road that's going to go back to the township compost facility that's there. Eventually, all of our operations that are right up the road over here are going to migrate. And part of what's going on with that Lot 12 warehouse, which has been approved now for some time, which is the last warehouse in the township, I should note for the record, is this access road. We are in the process as the township, more or less applying to ourselves, because we hold ourselves to the same standard that we hold everybody else to, applying to ourselves and going through the process of submission and review for the creation of this road that's going to basically span from Sauerkraut Lane to the new compost facility. So that's being reviewed right now. It's been somewhat expedited because there's now a rush for some work to occur up there. So we're trying to align everything correctly. We're moving into prime season to get work done. So we have a short timetable to do it. So CKS and Brian have been laboring pretty hard to get everything all set. It's not really anything that the Planning Commission would be all that interested in. It's a road, but it is going to get people from point A to point B, and that Lot 12 warehouse is going to take access from it as well, even though it's going to be on Sauerkraut. Brian, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, essentially, we're preparing the record plan that's gonna go before the board for approval. The record plan showing the new right-of-way for that road. I mean, there's nothing else really exciting about it. I mean, there's utilities, water, sewer, electric, that are all being coordinated with the construction of that access drive to the township's complex.
Yeah, I think the most exciting thing about it is what it's gonna get named.
Yeah.
Because,
Definitely
you
the most
know,
exciting part.
when they did the development up over, where the Posh Storage and the Kitty Academy is, we decided to call it Charcoal Drive in honor of the old Charcoal Drive-In, which was historic. So right now, everybody's trying to figure out what to name that, but I think, when we can report, it'll be a nice press release for everybody. So,
Is this public use compost?
yes.
Oh, this
Yes,
is
and this
nice.
is gonna be a public road. It's not a driveway. This is a public road that's getting built. So,
So we think there'll be more usage of the compost facility.
well, it's gonna be a bigger facility. I mean,
Nice.
there's some acreage back there. So what's done right now, right up here at the street at our current PW facility is gonna be moved to a much larger lot. That is also further away from the street and kind of secluded a little bit. So,
Excellent. It's a great win for our environment.
yeah.
Agreed.
Nice.
Mhm. Additionally, so we discussed this internally. We wanted to make a bit of a policy change as far as the posting of our agendas go. We're gonna obviously do what we've always done in terms of being transparent, getting it up on the website and everything. But what we found is that traditionally the township has posted its agenda almost a month in advance of the planning commission meeting. And in that time, we do our reviews and applicants ask to be removed from the agenda because they realize they need zoning relief or that they have major design issues for stormwater. And so some of the things that we found is then people come and they're concerned about it, but it's not really going to be on the agenda because they pull once they get engineering review or planning and zoning review. So what we've determined is we will circulate packets the way we always do, but we are going to post the agenda in conformity with the law and in fact, probably well above and beyond, because we're still going to post it much earlier than what the Sunshine Act for Pennsylvania requires. But doing it a month in advance is a little early because what that does is it tends to create confusion about who is coming before the planning commission tonight. For instance, Iron Run Estates. Iron Run Estates, 54 new residential units. They received our planning and zoning review. They have a lot of items that need to be addressed. They pulled from the agenda. So we'll know next month how the system is going to work out, but we think it's going to be a vast improvement instead of having people pull off at the last minute, the day of, or 3 or 4 days before the meeting. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. We're going to share that with the Board of Commissioners. We're going to put it up on our website. We want to be as vocal as we can about letting our residents know that we're just changing the timetable a little bit. But we think it's going to cause an improvement. And also more importantly, it's going to get rid of a bunch of the confusion that's occurred with a lot of other projects where people come and then they realize that it's not on the agenda that night. The week before the meeting. The week before the meeting when we post our review letters. So when the review packet goes out to the middle of the week prior, so we would expect that hopefully it'll be posted on the Wednesday or the Thursday prior to the planning commission meeting. Well above and beyond what the Sunshine Act requires. Well, we've been working on that internally in terms of the time frame. The big issue for us is when the applicant receives the review packet, that's when they determine whether they're going to want to be on the agenda or not. And that's what most of this turns off of, because if we post it and they still remove themselves from the agenda, again, if it's a project that's large or it affects an existing neighborhood, that will have people who want to come, and we don't want to create any type of confusion where they arrive to find out that their project isn't going to be discussed that night.
Yeah, I think the accuracy is better than the extreme warning, if you will. You know what I mean? By putting it out a month sounds great, but if it's inaccurate, I think that it creates that question mark of, well, is it going to happen? Or just sometimes there's a distrust that comes out of, well, why did it get canceled? You know, it got canceled for all good reasons. You know, it wasn't complete. Why are we going to waste everyone's time? But I think it sounds like a good improvement, and the case that you gave was a great example.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to ever be in a position where they remove themselves from the agenda. People spent time potentially moving their schedules around to come, and then they get crestfallen about their public participation, and then they might not be able to make it to or don't come to the next meeting. We want that input from our residents. So the accuracy is important to make sure that they can come. We know how busy everybody is. It takes a lot to take a night out of your evening to come and speak about a project that might impact your neighborhood. And therefore, making sure that the project is going to be on the agenda so they have the opportunity to come, hear a presentation and give their comment is incredibly important to us. If they come and it's not on the agenda and they leave, we might not ever get those folks back to give that same feedback, which is important. So that's the policy. We'll let everybody know how it goes, but we're going to give it a shot for the next couple of months over the summer and obviously update everybody. As far as some of our projects go, just so you know, we should expect to see the Woodmont Apartments this summer start to begin construction. Those are the mixed use buildings that are right where Allen Oregon is at, and the Carriage Home Apartments. They've been working for quite some time trying to get ready to record the project. We believe that that will be coming shortly. So for those watching at home and for everybody here this evening, if you start to see site activity there, that means the plan's recorded and they're getting started on all those units. Just again, for public edification and in a similar vein, for the 180 apartments that were proposed across the street from the middle school, that conditional use hearing has been moved back to May 2nd. They asked for another extension. So we expect that that public hearing will occur on May 2nd. If anything changes, it'll be up on the website. We'll let everybody know, but they were originally supposed to be at this month's meeting and it got pushed another 30 days. We are in a position right now where I can tell you that, again, Iron Run Estates will probably be coming forward with us once more. And we do expect to have a pipeline of some pretty significant project proposals coming towards us in the relatively near future. So it looks like it's going to be a relatively busy summer. Whether some of those folks actually move forward and pull the trigger and make an application to us, but we've done a fair amount of pre-application meetings and discussions with potential projects that would be of large size and scale that would be of great public interest. But beyond that, I think that's more or less the big items. The North Crocs mixed use project continues to work on how to solve and manage their PennDOT issues for North Crocs and the bypass. But that project is still going on in the background. And Topgolf, they are working on their access road. And so we just received, because they're in technical review right now for the access road and the stormwater, we received another submission from them on that. That's going to be reviewed. Once those traffic items and stormwater items are taken care of, that's the gateway, that's the roadway to get you to Topgolf and the rest of that town center project. We would expect everything's going to move forward based off of that afterwards. So we will probably see 1 or 2 applications from them in the coming months on those upcoming phases. I know people are interested in. So that's what we're working on, as well as much less interesting stuff like project closeouts and getting people off the books and returning escrows and you know, back of office stuff that isn't nearly as interesting as what we're doing here this evening. But I'm happy to answer any other questions you have. And I do appreciate the opportunity to be able to update the planning commission. I think this is a good addition to the agenda.
Yeah,
So,
you know, it's very
thank you.
helpful. I mean, the Woodmont project is a perfect example of, I don't think anyone even on, other than myself, was on this board when that project started. And it's just an example of how long it takes for a project that went through a whole lot of discussion at this level, at the planning commission level. And it's nice to say, okay, yeah, now we can see where that got to and where, and that it's going to start. So.
And the very interesting thing is a good chunk of it happened during COVID and a lot of the discussion
virtual meetings,
occurred virtually.
Yes.
We were not in this meeting room for a lot of those discussions and approvals. It was all done when everybody was at home, and it was still quite productive, and we still got from point A to point B. So,
but yeah, no, thank you very much for adding those additional comments.
Right.
And we appreciate you as well as this report. And one question, I totally agree with the 1 week posting of the agenda, but regarding consistency across other boards, would the zoning or other boards be doing similar timeframes just so that everyone is clear that maybe the process is the same. Does that matter? Does it not matter? I'm just curious if other boards are facing similar issues regarding timelines of posting and pulling people off. Just for my knowledge. I
Of
would
course.
appreciate your-
So I would say zoning's a different circumstance. When you apply to the zoning hearing board, you know you need relief or you know you want relief and there is no review letter. There is no discussion that happens with the staff and an overall submission, then the review and feedback. You know what you're coming in for and you're requesting it. It's a quasi judicial proceeding, whereas our group here is an advisory committee to the Board of Commissioners to make sure that the plan, when it comes to the board, is complete enough to be able to say, this is endorsed by the planning commission and staff and ready for your review and potential approval. A zoning relief request is specifically, like the applicants here today, regards the size of a lot or frontage or a use, and you're specifically going for that one thing. So that agenda is put out much more in advance because they know what they want when they come to us. Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
Perfect. So there are differentiation in
Yep.
the law, which makes sense.
I would
Thank
say
you.
we're a little bit different, but again, I have confidence. We've batted this around internally and we think that this is going to be a move for the better, mostly to make sure that we get maximum public engagement, which I think is the important part.
Nice. I love learning, so thank you for that.
All right.
Right.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn our meeting?
Second that.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.